And welcome back to a Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jono. Here's my co-host, as always, Chris. And you're tuning to Episode 5, the Way Too Early Mock Draft 1.0. Thanks for checking in with us here. We're going to be doing a 10-round mock draft, standard scoring, 12-team. We're going to go through no defenses, no kickers. It's going to be a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and 3 bench spots. I'm going to be drafting out of the 3 spot. Chris will be drafting out of the 8 spot. Let's get into it.
Mock draft.
And here we are. Again, like I said, I'm drafting out of the 3. Chris is drafting out of the 8. So we're going to talk about our picks, why we like them, and sort of our strategy based on what happens around us. Let's get this draft kicked off. McCaffrey, Henry, first 2 off the board. In a standard league here, my choices are Austin Eckler, who's still kind of unknown with the Chargers, but today thinking he's going to be a LA Charger. It's tough to turn down a guy like that. Again, I picked Jefferson last year. He fell down to me, I think, 9. I'm probably going to sit here and go with Eckler. With the volume added with Addison in Minnesota, who knows? It may affect Jefferson a little bit. It may help him better, but I'm not going to take a chance on passing up on a running back that's just going to get great volume both in the passing and running game. Kupp, then Jefferson, Najee, Chubb, and now you're on the board.
This is an interesting spot. So, you know, the top guys. I'm always looking running back in the first round, unless there's a special player. I would have probably went Kupp or Jefferson if they were still available. But I don't think any wide receiver really holds up to even Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs. Like, I don't think they hold up to having one of these guys at running back. Now, the next couple of guys are Saquon Barkley, Dalvin Cook, Jonathan Taylor, Joe Mixon, Breece Hall, Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs. So the guy I really like there is going to be Saquon Barkley. I think the season that he had last year, he's going to be in another contract year this year. I think it's too much. Like they invested into this offense. I think that's the guy I want to go with.
That's a good pick. Obviously, being a Giants fan, I love it. It's tough for me to pass him up at 3-2. But it's tough to beat Eckler finding the end zone all the time. All right, so you got Chase after you, Travis Kelce, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, 3 receivers and a tight end after you. Then you got 3 running backs and a receiver with Taylor, then Diggs, then Cook, then Mixon.
And here's the other guy, and this is exactly what I wanted to happen right here. Is, you know, Saquon is the higher ranked player, but the other guy I was considering even in the first slot was Josh Jacobs. And now in the second round, I have Saquon Barkley in the first round, and now I'm going to go and pick Josh Jacobs in the second. Another guy that is
running back. So you got Josh Allen. Yeah, go ahead. Finish it. Yeah, so Allen, Tyreek, Mahomes, A.J. Brown, and then falling back to me here at 3. So here's the thing. We talk about elite quarterbacks, and we talk about their availability and how quick they could go off the board in certain leagues. And it may happen in your league. In our league, it doesn't happen always that often, but some people love to get their quarterback early and out of the way. In this case, 2 of the high-ranked quarterbacks are there. See, in my opinion, like, Hurts is somebody I'd love to get, but I also love Burrow and I love Herbert, and I know those guys are going to be there for the swing. You know, based on numbers game, one of them will be in the 3rd round for me. Maybe not 4th, but 3rd round for sure. So here's where I want to try and get somebody. And when I look at the wide receivers available, maybe I could try and get my first wide receiver off the board. Nobody's jumping off the page at me saying, I need to take this guy right now. Running back wise, however, I love the fact that there's a couple guys here that are really going to help shine and be my good RB2. And I know he's injured right now, but coming off the season he had last year, you know when he gets healthy, he's going to be the guy. I'm willing to take a chance on Breece Hall as my RB2 in this situation.
I like it.
Pitts. And now here,
now we're another interesting. This is exactly what you kind of hoped would happen, right? The wide receivers weren't jumping off the board at you. You had a nice couple pick swing. So now you get your number 2 running back, and now you only have one wide receiver that got selected with Keenan Allen in that swing. So now you have that selection of the next best wide receiver there. Now you got two of those stud running backs, and now you can go and get that receiver there.
And the fact that no like Hurts didn't go off the board makes me a little bit more confident that I'm going to get a quarterback on the swing around that I like, because we're talking quarterback wise, Hurts, Herbert, Burrow, Lamar Jackson. I'd be happy with any of those 4 guys in the 4th round coming around to me, because I want to try and get one of those guys early, because if I don't, I'm not looking at any of these guys in the middle. I'm taking a chance on someone like Justin Fields. I'm taking a chance on Daniel Jones, somebody a little, Jared Goff, even a steady Eddie quarterback. So, but you're right. I want to try and fill my receiver spot. I like to get my position players. And here's the thing. T. Higgins is a great guy, a great receiver. He's arguably the wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 for Cincinnati. But I want a big playmaker, and I love Jalen Waddle at 18 yards per reception last year, only 75 catches, but the guy is a gamer, and he's going to find the end zone, and Tua loves him. So I'm taking big playability here.
I like the pick there. I like the pick. And this is exactly, again, you see the teams in the middle there that went wide receiver, or wide receiver, quarterback, and now they're handcuffed into having to pick a running back. So it allowed some of those other receivers to drop in position in that 3rd round. And now at the 3rd position, I got Saquon Barkley in the 1st, Josh Jacobs in the 2nd, and now I can go and snag T. Higgins in the 3rd.
Yep, and see, that's a great spot for T. Higgins too. Again, the reason I wanted Waddle over Higgins or Debo or any of those guys was purely because I want that big play. He could take it 1 catch to the end zone on the first play of the game, as good as Tyreek Hill can.
See, and now I'm kind of in the same position as you, and right after I pick T. Higgins, we get Kittle off the board, we get Swift off the board, we get Andrews off the board, then Hurts, Michael Pittman, Cam Akers, Mike Evans, and then Joe Burrow. So there's a little bit of a run on quarterback, and now I want to go and get one of those elite guys. I got 2 elite running backs. I got a wide receiver that I can play every week, and now I want to go and get my quarterback for the season. Yep. So I'm going to go and get Lamar Jackson right here.
Smart play. Great pick. And see, there goes Jackson, there goes Herbert. And so here's what I was talking about. If I don't get these guys here, in my opinion, I'm not going to sit here and settle for Dak Prescott in hopes that he has a season like he did years ago, or take a chance on Russell Wilson on a bounce-back season, or Tua that he stays healthy, or Cousins that he throws touchdown passes. Now, there's one guy on this list that I'm willing to take a chance on, but I'm not going to take a chance on him this pick because we talk about tight ends here. And to me, there's 2 guys on this list that I really would like to have on my team, and that's Hockenson and Waller. However, when I look at Team 1 and Team 2 here, one's got all running backs, probably going to have to go wide receiver. Team 2 already has a tight end, which makes me think I don't have to pick a tight end here, that Waller or Hockenson are going to be available for me in this swing around. And I go back and I look at the wide receivers available and how can I boost my wide receivers. And I've got Amon-Ra St. Brown sitting right here for me. I think this guy's going to be a top 10 receiver this year. He ended up, I think, finishing top 10 in standard or top 12 in standard. I think this guy's going to be fantastic again this year on a high-powered offense, especially when you get one of your wide receivers suspended for 6 games and another one departed. I love his availability right here at the 4th round. And one, obviously being a CPU, is going full 0 wide receiver, full running back. Full running back, unexpected. That being said, here's where 5th round is usually where I start to try and target one of my tight ends. If I'm not getting Travis Kelce, I'm waiting on tight ends, because to me, the value of Waddle in the 3rd versus Kittle or Andrews in the 3rd, to me, it's a little bit more important. Same thing with the 4th round. If like maybe Kittle or Andrews was down there at the 4, I debate on it, like I said. But here, I'm going to go with Darren Waller on a new team, big body. He's going to be a big target. I'm going to trust being a Giants fan. Here's where I get my New York Giant on my team. You got Cooper, Deontay Johnson, Fournette, and then Michael Thomas off the board.
So, the question here, I got my quarterback. I can always go tight end here and go and get my tight end. However, with the couple teams after me, all 3 teams after me already have a tight end. So, sorry, there's 4 teams after me, and only the 12th team doesn't have a tight end.
Correct.
So, of the tight ends that are available, he's going to snag one of them, and like the other. So, if he goes T.J. Hockenson, I can go Goddard. So, I'm not feeling pressured into getting one of those guys here. But what I do have here is a chance to go and get another wide receiver, and my second receiver, or go and get my flex position and my running back. And this is a guy I've had last year, and I had the year before, and this guy I love. And, he's going to have a bigger timeshare, and I'm shocked that he's still on the board here. So I'm going to go Ramondre Stevenson.
Yep, I had a gut feeling that I saw him sitting there. And again, this is the way too early mock draft. I think some of these ADP rankings are a little bit skewed or bogus based on finishes and projections for the year. Ramondre Stevenson should never last to your 5th round in this league going right forward, just because of his production last year. I mean, what you got to see is what you see here is a bunch of quarterbacks and tight ends off the board before he'll go. And so, great pick. I like that. And
now I have 3 running backs. I have a quarterback. I got to go and get another wide receiver. And there's 2 guys I've had my eye on. One guy I had last year, but realistically, this is a guy that I really want on my team this year, and I'm going to go and get him because he is probably not going to last the swing back to me, and that's being Garrett Wilson.
Yep. And speaking of Garrett Wilson, I'm in a position here where the 2 guys next to me don't have quarterbacks, and we're in the 6th round. And Kyler Murray coming off an injury, not going to go there. Russell Wilson, don't want to hope for a bounce back. Like I said, Tua injury prone with the concussions. Kirk Cousins is too up and down for me. But you've got Aaron Rodgers in New York. And Sleeper here has him projecting 277 points, which is a little bit above Kyler, below Russ, below Tua and all that. The offense that they have in New York is going to be tough for him to not score points. Like they're giving everything he needs. They brought his veteran wide receivers that he likes in there. He's got Garrett Wilson. He's got great tight ends. He's got good running game, great coaching staff. I just feel like everything's in place for him to be successful. And I haven't been an Aaron Rodgers owner probably for a long time, if I ever have been in this league, in our league. This may be the year that I'm taking a chance on him, and sitting here knowing that Team 2's got all these wide receivers. Team 1 may go 2 wide receivers in a row. I'd be happy with getting someone like here's the wide receivers. Devonta Smith, if he happens to fall back to me. Christian Kirk, if he happens to fall back, because that guy was a 1,000-yard receiver last year. Even Drake London, the main wide receiver in Atlanta, I'd love to try and take a chance on. So if one of those guys falls to me, it's great. But I'm going to go with my quarterback here. I'm going to go with my quarterback here.
You got it in.
I'm going Aaron Rodgers. Calling my shot. And sometimes that's the thing you guys got to do out there is if you want a guy, and yeah, it looks like Aaron Rodgers would have lasted to me right here at the 7th pick, and Mooney and Kirk are gone. But who else did I say that I really liked? Devonta Smith. And if Devonta Smith is there as my flex play, I'd plug him in there day after day with Waddle and St. Brown.
Yeah. And when I made the pick with Garrett Wilson, there were 3 guys on the board that I really liked, all kind of like a couple picks apart. There was Devonta Smith, there was Garrett Wilson, and there's this guy who didn't get picked right before me, and it's Brandon Ayuk.
Mm-hmm. He's sneaky. He's sneaky. He puts up the points.
Yeah. And so I haven't gone tight end yet, and I haven't got that guy, but this is a tight end. The tight end I can wait for. At this point, I missed out on all the big tight ends. So why am I going to go and reach for a guy like the tight ends on the board right now are Dawson Knox, Pat Freiermuth, Mike Gesicki, Zach Ertz, Cole Kmet, Hunter Henry. Those guys are not appealing to me to go and not take a guy like Ayuk or, sitting in this position. I have Brandon Cooks, Juju, Pickens, Thielen, Elijah Moore, Allen Robinson, Lazard, Tony, Robert Woods. Like, there's so many guys there. Like, why would I go and reach on a tight end? Like, even at running back, I can go get Brian Robinson. I can go get James Cook or Rashad Penny.
Mm-hmm.
There's I can go get a backup in Alexander Madison. Like, there are guys that are on this board that are going to be serviceable. I mean, for Pete's sake, like, we haven't even gone, like, Bijan Robinson is available here.
I know. I mean, that's what I say. This is way too early. People aren't gonna. He should be going a lot earlier than that. We know that for sure.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that. I read a lot of, way too early mock drafts, and people have him listed as a top 10 running back already. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Tyler Allgeier's there. It's not like this rushing offense last year was prolific. Like, This isn't a Zeke rookie campaign coming in where he has the best offensive line in football in front of him. Like, we're talking about the Atlanta Falcons from last year. We're talking about Desmond Ridder having his first full season as quarterback. And everyone's anointing Bijan Robinson as, like, he's going to be this, 1,200-yard rusher, and he's going to score 13 touchdowns. And, like, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't see it happening either. But I'm going to be in the same trend as you. I'm going to try and snag another running back because I've got Eckler and Hall, and that's it. I want to have a little bit of insurance. And we're in the 8th round here. If Robinson would be before that there, I'm still not ready to take a chance on Charbonnet or Gibbs. I will in the 9th round if they're sitting there too as well. I may try and do that. And I'm on the swing around here, so I kind of have my pick of the litter. So I like this guy. I think he's going to have a good chance in his position. I think they're going to lean on the run game a little bit now that Tom Brady's gone. And with Leonard Fournette not returning, I like Rachaad White and the opportunity in itself. He could be somebody that sneaks up into the top 12. And then here, swinging back around, you had 3 receivers go and Kirk Cousins. I'm sitting there with Waddle, St. Brown, Devonta Smith. I'm not going to get a backup quarterback because I've got Rodgers. I'm not going to get a backup tight end because I've got Waller. I'm not going to have to play carousel with those 2 guys. I'm going to lean on them heavily and hope they produce the way I want them to produce. So now
Waller, I'm just might get a backup tight end. He might get injured.
He may, but I'm gonna listen. At the end of the day, if I'm picking up, Njoku off the waivers or, Gerald Everett off the waivers or Juwan Johnson off the waivers, I'd be happy too because there's the guys that are going to produce every so often. So I'm not going to waste a roster spot on another tight end or another quarterback right now. So I'm going to go back to the running back pool. And this is where I'm going to take a shot on Jahmyr Gibbs.
There you go.
It may be late in some people's leagues. It may be a sweet spot for him there at the 9 spot. We know he's going to be in a shared backfield. He's not going to get the lion's share, pun intended. But what he could do with the ball once he gets in his hands gives him opportunities to get in the end zone. And in a standard scoring league, we want those touchdowns. So I'm hoping that he's somebody that maybe takes over as could be a flex play for me. It could be RB2 for me, while Breece Hall is recovering from his injury.
Yeah. I'm going to, scroll on down a little bit on the wide receivers and, just taking a look at some of the younger guys that are coming up, or with this guy who hasn't played in a year, going and getting Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, I like that. Because he's going to be sitting there in your leagues because people are going to forget about the name, number 1, and number 2, they're going to forget how good he really was.
Right. And so now I have to go and pick a tight end. And I'm going to go and get my guy that I really love this year. We've talked about him in our other episodes, and that's Michael Mayer at tight end.
And you're getting him in the 10th round here because we're doing a 10-round mock. I think you could get him obviously later on in the draft too as well, but his value is going to be fantastic. And sitting here again, I'm not going quarterback, not going tight end. once I get past that 9th round, I hit that 10th round. 9 and 10, I really like to take, and this is how I like to draft my teams. I like to go for some rookies and go for upside and go for these guys. So like a couple years ago, I believe 9th round was the round I chose Jalen Waddle, and being in a keeper league, I was able to keep him. But that's where I took Jalen Waddle. I took the big playability. I'm going to take big playability here, and being a Giants fan, I'm 100% going to take the chance on Jalen Hyatt. It's a riskier pick, but again, I've got 3 solid receivers ahead of me. I can take a chance on a wide receiver like that, a guy that, hey, if he's knocking off Devonta Smith because week after week he's going 80 and a touchdown on these bomb plays or something, that's the type of guy that wins you a week because you decided to throw him in your flex over somebody who's gets steady Eddie and may not hit the end zone every single week.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely crazy to kind of think right now on kind of the rest of the way. Like, obviously, we have a computer drafting the other positions, the other 10 positions, but even how their ADP is set up, a lot of the rookies this early on are really, really low on ADP, and
yes.
So they're taking veterans. There's not as much overdrafting with players. But if you look at even like how my team came to be, like I'm sitting there in the 9th round and I'm looking, there's JSN, there's Jordan Addison still available, Josh Downs still available. Like, you have a lot of guys that are still there. And I think that there's this big urge to go and like reach on guys like that, but let the draft come to you. And when you're sitting there in that position, especially if you're near a swing, think about what other players have after you and where maybe the trend is going to go to maybe get a guy that won't be there for you, rather than going reaching a round or two early for a guy. We kind of said it earlier on, like, don't be afraid. Like, if you have a gut feeling about a player, don't be afraid to go and just grab him. Yeah. Who cares if it's 2 years earlier? I remember the first year that Peyton Manning went to Denver, I drafted him in the fifth overall.
Fifth overall. Yeah, I remember that.
5th overall, I drafted him, and I knew that this guy, I was like, he's going to have a huge season. Like, there's no way he doesn't. Like, the weapons that he has around him, and it worked out perfectly for me. I didn't win a championship that year because it got knocked out in the first round, but I think I went 10-3 that season during the regular season.
Yeah.
So it's never too early to go and draft a player, especially if you really, really like them. If you feel that confident that they're going to have a big season, go and get them.
Well, especially in positions where they're scarce. When you talk about a quarterback or you talk about a tight end,
right.
Like taking Kelsey in the first round is not a bad pick at all. Like, no one's going to ever argue like, oh, you shouldn't take Kelsey in the first round. Like, because you can argue that he's the best at his position. There's nobody that can compete with him. That's fine. Same thing goes with the quarterback. Like, if you want Jalen Hurts and you're afraid he's not going to get back to you, like, you take him, and that's the same thing. It goes with, you look at some of these other picks. Like, if you look at your round here, you took T Higgins in the 3rd round there, and then Stevenson in the 5th. If you saw Stevenson on the board on that turnaround back and you're like, there's no way he's making it back to me in the 5th round, and I would love to have him as my flex, I'd rather have him as my flex than Lamar Jackson. Go get your guy. Don't worry about Lamar Jackson. Like, you're going to find a quarterback to play that spot, but nobody's going to be able to put together those 3 running backs like you ended up doing here in that situation. Same thing goes when I go over here and I look at my team is like, yeah, I took Waddle 3. Like, yeah, there could have been some other people that arguably are going to get probably more receptions and opportunities, but his big playability, I'm going to take him in the 3rd round every day over these other receivers that went after him. I just love his playability, and taking Aaron Rodgers in the 6th round may be a little bit early, but again, I explained why I didn't like all these other guys around it. And I want my quarterback. I want a guy that I'm going to plug in there and forget about him every week. And Aaron Rodgers is an MVP player. It doesn't matter, even on his bad seasons, he's still a solid quarterback. So take the chance. Like, it's not a risk if it's a guy you want. You'd rather have him on your team and miss out on somebody else because you drafted him a little bit earlier than sitting there sulking because he's not on your team anymore.
Yeah, I just want to kind of point out, in reference to last week's episode when we're talking about PPR and one of the arguments being like, oh, it's just going to be top heavy and running back. And you look, I drafted, and if you're not in the first 5 picks, like you're not going to get like stud running backs. I drafted from the 8th position, and I have Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Ramondre Stevenson.
Yep.
And I'm drafting from the 8th position.
Yep.
You look at the team in the 6th position: Najee Harris, Alvin Kamara, James Conner, Leonard Fournette.
Yep.
The guy in the 10th position is Dalvin Cook and DeAndre Swift. Like, there's always going to be value there. Like, the top 5 players can't draft everyone, or the top 5 positions can't draft everyone.
Yeah,
it's a matter about what you're doing there and what you're doing round by round, and where are you going to find value.
Yep.
So
I like to use a term.
By the way, my team's better than yours.
Yeah, I like your team a lot. I do, but I trust my team. I trust my team better. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to finish with more touchdowns overall than Lamar Jackson. I think Darren Waller's going to have more yardage and touchdowns than Michael Mayer. I think Waddle, St. Brown, and Devonta Smith are going to be top 11 receivers together. And I think Breece Hall coming back off injury.
He's going to have a good season. You got to love Garrett Wilson, right?
Oh, I love Garrett Wilson, but I'm just telling you, Eckler, Breece Hall, I think are going to be fantastic. And if Jahmyr Gibbs is what he's all chalked up to be for that, 12th pick in the draft, I think he's going to be somebody to shine too as well. So,
yeah,
I like the teams. I mean, again, it's a 12-team league. So it's not like we had the pick of the litter of everybody like in a 10-team league, but looking at, I'd like to talk about zigging while other people zag, or zag when other people zig, however you want to say it. And we talk about some of the strategy when we were going through our picks is we're looking at what the people are doing around us, and we're looking all the way at the end of the end of the actual round and the snake coming back and seeing what the trend is. And it doesn't matter what league you play in, people take runs on positions as soon as they start to get off the board. And when people are taking runs on that and they're worried about getting that position and value at that position, there's going to be value at another position sitting for you right there, shining like a diamond in the rough. And that's where you got to have the cojones to sit there and say, I don't care if I don't get value at that position right now, because I'm going to be stocked and loaded and better than other teams at this position. I mean, just look at what Chris did in the 5th round. You had 5 running backs go in the 5th round, but 2 before him, because everybody went with wide receivers, and I went with a tight end. And Stevenson's sitting there waiting for him before that. Had people went on a running back run there, he would have had DJ Moore, Cooper, or Deontay Johnson, Michael Thomas, and it would have been a tougher pick, I think, at the 5th pick. But sitting there, Stevenson, I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, you can't hate on it. And a really good rule of thumb is be the trendsetter. You never want to be caught at the end of a trend. So if you start seeing a run, if you're the second or third guy and you start seeing a run on players, and you're like, your guy is sitting there like 3 players down and you're 10 picks away from your next pick, go and get that player.
Yep.
Like, don't wait to go to be the end of it, because you're going to be sitting there scrambling. You're like, oh my God, like I need to go make a decision. And then now you're choosing between 2 players you really don't love versus going and getting a player that you do love.
Yeah.
So start the trend, don't finish the trend.
And wash out the noise. I mean, everybody loves to use the word reach. You reached for him. Oh, that was such a reach. Honestly, like, yeah, if I took Jahmyr Gibbs and my second running back, or if I took Jahmyr Gibbs in the 1st round, yeah, that's a reach for a player like that, because the value doesn't outweigh the pick that I took him in. But there's no reaches in taking Aaron Rodgers in the 6th. There's no reaches in taking, if I took Devonta Smith as my first wide receiver, because of what he did last year and the team he's on. Like, those aren't reaches, because their ADP is just a number that comes up with based on how everybody's drafting around, and it's the average draft position that all the other people are doing. But do you want to be in the average draft position, or do you want to come out with the best draft that you have and love the team that you're looking at? And that's where it comes down to. If somebody's sitting there saying, oh, it's such a reach, or if you're thinking in your mind, oh, that's a reach because, we talked about this in all our mock drafts we did leading up to our fantasy draft. It's not a reach. There's our reaches out there and you can do it. But, 3-4 rounds is not that much of a reach. If like that guy is there, the talent's there. Like Devonta Smith and St. Brown, the talent is so close to each other right there. But I got them, 4 picks difference?
Right.
It's 4 rounds difference. So you really, really do your homework, study it up. We're going to post this up here on Twitter. We'll post it up as a small little short so people can see our video as well. And look forward to our upcoming Instagram page where we will also be posting a lot of our mock draft finals, and we'll be asking everybody who won the mock draft between me and Chris. Chris obviously thinks he did. It's hard to argue with him there, but I do love my team. So those of you tuned in, I appreciate it. If you like the content, like and subscribe, and feel free to share this amongst your leagues.
Yeah, keep an eye out for our shorts during the week too. We post a lot of them daily, talking about new players, new homes, our thoughts on players this season.
Yep.
So keep an eye out, like and subscribe if you love it.
Hey, and if there's anybody you want us to talk about and our opinion on them, shoot a comment out there and we'll be happy to make one for you. Thanks again for tuning in, guys.